One thing you're going to see a lot in code with JavaScript is functions. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about functions and how they're properly used. In a lot of tutorials, people explain that functions should only be used for repeatable code. The problem is when people learn how to use functions, unfortunately, we can't build something complex enough for it to really make sense for a reusable code aspect of it. So we actually have to use it for just some really simple, basic thing that we would never apply over and over and over again. So people get the wrong idea and think that you just use functions for everything. They know every time you have to do some math or every time you have to do something, you have to wrap it in a function. This is not true at all. The only thing you really ever have to use functions for is if you want to do something over and over and over and over again, and you don't want to have to write that many lines of code. So I'm just going to show you how a function works. I'm not going to show you in this class like a live version of something that I would actually use a function for, because this is really just too basic. So I'm just going to show you how a function actually works. So let's create two variables. We'll do num1 equals 10, bar num2 equals 15. We'll create a function called add. You'll notice some people write it a little bit differently. This is the shortest way, so this is the way that I always write it. And let's just do document.write, and let's say num1 plus num2. So we have our function here. The name of our function is add. We need the parentheses in order for it to be recognized as a function. Then we have what we're doing inside of it. So when this function runs, do this thing. Now this function's not currently running. It's not going to run without initializing it. And the way you initialize it, or one way you can initialize it, is by simply writing add parentheses down here. So let's go ahead and comment this out for now. I'm going to save it, go back to our page, refresh. All right, and nothing happened. So let's go back here, remove the comments, save it, and refresh. And there we go. So we get 25, right? Num1 plus num2 equals 25. All right, so that's one way that you can write a function. Really common. You're going to see this all the time. The other way, the way that so many people get confused about, and I was really confused about this for the longest time, was how to actually use parameters and arguments. So really quickly, this is where your parameter or parameters go. And this is where your argument or arguments go. All right? These are pretty much, in many ways, the same exact thing. Let me write. All right. So these are pretty much the same exact thing. When you put arguments in here, they are applied here. Let me show you how that works. So I'm just going to write A, comma, B. Then I'm going to do, let's do 5, comma, 5. We're going to change this to A and to B. So the A and B are local variables, and the values originate from within the initial call of that function. So in this case, this 5 relates to this A, and this 5 relates to this B. All right, I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to refresh, and we should see 10. Perfect. So that's what we see. So we can come in here, we can change this if we wanted to num1 and to num2. I'll save it. Go back, I'll refresh. There we see 25. Now I put two parameters in. I could just keep it as one parameter. I could do like this times A, and let's just do num1. I'll save it. Go and refresh, and we get 100. So you can actually put as many parameters here as you want. You pretty much just want to use the ones that are necessary, but you can put as many as you want. So that's how it works. Whenever you put a value here of any sort, it's a variable that is used within the function. And its value comes from the initial call of the function, wherever it is on the page, right? The initial call of the function. So remember that these two are connected. The parameters and the arguments are practically the same thing. Practically the same thing, but you'll hear parameter and argument all the time. So that's just the functions. The one thing I want you to remember is this is typically not the type of reusable code we would ever use, so I would actually never ever use a function to do this one thing. That doesn't make any sense. We could easily just do num1 plus num2 or num1 times num1, and we wouldn't need a function at all. So functions are exclusively used for code that you need to repeat. You could figure out if you want to use a function or not based on how many times you have to write the same line of code. If it's like more than twice, you probably want to start using a function just to shorten it for yourself. We'll get more into that next week.